2 weeks ago, we as a class heard a plain and fact speech from our classmate on a topic presumably very relatable to most of us, social media. The problem was that they proposed that social media platforms are harming people through presenting an endless stream of stress, making them more emotional, and increasing insecurity. Today, I'll tell you how this is false. The speaker's first claim stated that social media feeds often resemble an endless stream of stress. She used a study that found that those who use 7 or more social media platforms were more than 3 times as likely to have anxiety as those who used 0 to 2. High social media use undoubtedly has a correlation with anxiety, but correlation is not necessarily causation. So social media is not necessarily what is causing this anxiety. People with anxiety could perhaps check social media feeds more often to check what others are doing or saying, but the social media is not what is bringing this anxiety on. Therefore, the anxious tweeter is more likely to have 7 or more social media platforms than someone who doesn't, showing the correlation between the two. One could even go so far to say that social media serves as an endless stream of stress relief. According to an article by Dr. Samir Hinduja of the Cyberbullying Research Center, the ability to be vulnerable in a seemingly safe space and unburden one's heart to a sympathetic audience has promising and even transformative potential. Meaning social media can serve as a safe space to vent out one's issues in return for support, which is crucial to our mental health. There are various online communities that allow for this, including but not limited to YouTube, Tumblr, and PostSecret, where you can send anonymous postcards with your secrets on them. The speaker's second claim states that social media leads to a more emotional person. She claims this happens because social media use increases the brain's gray matter. According to the speaker's article on Scientific American, gray matter controls social cognition, including facial recognition and memory. Social media creates a larger social environment. A larger social environment increases the brain's gray matter, so social media increases the brain's gray matter. The gray matter is split into 4 areas. Only one of these affects real-world relationships, called the amygdala. The 3 areas referred to in the speaker's speech only affect online interactions. Though the speaker uses this as a claim to state it will bring imbalance to the brain, the article states whether this is untapped potential or a potential imbalance is unclear until further research or time can show. According to the speaker's source as well, gray matter has no correlation to a person's emotions. The speaker's final point regards the fear of missing out, abbreviated FOMO. What she fails to address is that this is an addiction and can range from very real to non-existent depending on the user of the medium. It is an addiction to the idea of always doing the best thing available due to the fear of missing out, and if you don't, you crash or get sad and obsessively check your feeds. To lower the suffering victims, we must aid and educate the public on its causes and effects. With so many benefits such as worldly communication and a plethora of information available, eradicating social media, which it seems the speaker's speech is geared towards, is not a productive way to resolve the problem at hand. If FOMO affects you, ask yourself any of these 4 questions. Is that really what you want to be doing? Is this because I need to change? Is this viable for me? Or is this an accurate representation of reality? Through these, you will probably realize what you can, need, or want to be doing. Basically, take a breath and be present in your moment, wherever that is, whatever that is, not lost in the black hole of social media. By spreading the importance of these questions, we can lessen the effects of FOMO. In conclusion, social media is harmless as its correlation to anxiety is not causation. The untapped potential of our brain's growing gray matter is unknown, and FOMO is an addiction with no presentable harm to people. As psychiatrist John M. Grawl said, like the old school crackberry addicts, we're now all in the grip of FOMO addiction. Just like the BlackBerry video games and everything else before it, social media is a new technology fad and will eventually pass. Are you ready for the next one?
All right, well, you identify the proposition pretty clearly. There's not really a setup of what the secondary points are going to be. You label them as you get to them on each individual point. On the first point, you recap pretty effectively what the advocate's argument was, and you mentioned the 7 platforms that they talk about. I think you've got an interesting argument here that the social media is a sign of the anxiety, not the cause of the anxiety. And especially if people have 7 social media platforms, that seems like they are pretty darn needy in this particular situation. So I can appreciate the way you've reasoned in this situation and addressed the argument that the advocate's presenting here. You've got a counterclaim here that talks about potential stress reduction, and I thought that that was fine. Some of the examples that you provided, were okay, like post-secret. That was an interesting idea, although some documentation that this actually has an impact on doing that would be helpful. The notion that it's a potential is just that, it's a potential. On the second point, you kind of get involved in this whole discussion of gray matter. I do think that there is a presumption here that the gray matter that gets developed is not really related to the social media. I'm not sure how that was determined and what information the advocate used or that you used to arrive at that conclusion. Most of your argument here is an analysis of the kind of reasoning that they're using and suggesting some problems with the chain of argument that they're going on. And I'm not sure that your argument is any clearer than their argument was, but since they have the burden of proof, it probably benefits you to go ahead and make that particular argument. On the third point on FOMO, I thought you did a good job kind of suggesting that there's a potential here that it's really something more of an addiction as opposed to a particular problem. And then you've got a list of potential ways that people could address this. The other thing is that I think you did point out that there's not really any demonstration there's any harm that occurs because of this. As I'm listening to the presentation, I hear a lot of things in it that I think are effective ways of summarizing an argument and presenting them. Unfortunately, they're not being delivered that way. They're being read, and that undermines the quality of the language use in the speech. So that's something that you would probably want to practice a little bit more. All right, thank you.